Call the meeting to order. So I'd like to welcome everybody to this meeting of the Buckinghamshire and Milton Keynes Fire Authority.
Let you know that the shop is open and can be found in Code C.
I can't work out if that was a train announcement or whatever. But anyway, welcome to this meeting. Members of the public are able to attend and observe this meeting, but also just to advise people that following the meeting, a video recording will be uploaded to the authority's YouTube channel. And I know we're joined this morning by some members and others on the Teams link. If I could ask people when they're not speaking to turn their camera off, and if they wish to speak to then bring their camera on. I'm aware that this is the first meeting of the Fire Authority since the sad passing of Her Majesty the Queen earlier this year, so I'd like to propose that members present and others stand for a minute's silence. Thank you. So, moving to item number 1, apologies for absence.
Councillors Adoa, McLean and Walsh.
I think it's Waite, actually, isn't it? Sorry. Councillor Waite, I think, isn't it, actually?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
That's right. Thank you. So item number 2 is new member of authority and appointment to committee. So I'd like to welcome Councillor Adoa to the committee. She's joining us remotely today, who's replacing Councillor Irwin on the authority. I'm very much looking forward to Councillor Adoa's skills and experience being added to the committee. I'd like to also have the authority approve the appointment of Councillor Adoa to the Overview and Audit Committee. Are we happy to agree that? Thank you. So next item, number 3, to approve and sign as a correct record the minutes of the meeting of the Fire Authority held on the 15th of June. Are there any questions for actually Councillor Stutchbury?
And thank you very much, Chairman. Page 16, it says a member proposed something which was seconded by Councillor Emily Darlington, and we discussed it endlessly, and it was agreed to put it on. It just says a member said and asked a question with the webcast. It isn't factually correct. It was to do with the environmental impact, Chairman. I was following your lead because you put amendments at the start of the meeting, and I said I was following your good grace and put in an amendment, and it doesn't reflect that in the minute. It says a member asked why. I didn't ask why, I proposed. It's quite different. So I'd like the minutes to be amended, because Councillor Emily Darlington seconded me. We had a long discussion.
That's fine. Sorry, Councillor Stutchbury, could you just specifically reference which part of the minute you're referring to, just so I can find
page
it?
16. Yeah. It's environmental impact. I've got a lucky person. I can remember what I say.
Sorry, which paragraph are you referring to? I think we're struggling to find the reference.
Paragraph, corporate plan. And if you remember...
No, I recall the discussion. I'm just trying to find the minute relevant. So page 16, which paragraph on page 16?
It's the second short paragraph from the bottom. It says, a member asked why the environment was not on the corporate plan. My recollection is we proposed that it was added to the corporate plan. It was seconded by Councillor Emily Darlington.
Yeah.
And then we discussed it and voted and agreed that it would be on the next agenda. Now, that is referenced in the later part of the minutes, but it's not referenced what you said.
Understood. We'll correct the record to note that you proposed that the Environment Action Plan be added to the corporate plan. We'll note that. That's fine. Thank you. Any other questions of accuracy on the minutes? Okay, we're happy with that amendment to approve as an accurate record? Okay. So item number 4A, matters arising from the previous meetings. Previous meeting.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of matters to draw members' attention to. Minute FA 08 was the appointments onto committees, and as already been noted, there's been a change in membership. So just to confirm that on the 14th of July, the leader of Buckinghamshire Council replaced Councillor Irwin with Councillor Addo onto the authority. She has subsequently been put onto the Overview and Audit Committee as a substantive member at this meeting. And the other thing, Chairman, is the Home Office consultation, FA 14. I can confirm that the draft submission was finally circulated to the parties of the working group and the group leaders, and that submission has been made to the Home Office. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions from members on those items? No? Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 4B, which is the Chairman's and Vice Chairman's responsibilities. You'll recall there was a point raised by Councillor Darlington following the discussions on the Vice Chairman's responsibilities to note the Chairman's responsibilities. That's been done, and members are being asked to note that. Are there any questions or comments on that? No? Okay. Meeting happy to note those? Thank you. Item number 5, disclosure of interests. Are there any disclosable pecuniary interests or others that members wish to declare? Seeing none, thank you very much. Chairman's announcements. So members will have received the Chairman's announcement. I'm not proposing to read through them. Happy to take any questions when we get to it. But you'll notice that the first part of the Chairman's announcements is the excellent news that the service was in receipt of the Armed Forces Covenant Gold Award. And I'm delighted that today we're joined by Wing Commander Jenny Dennis. And I think the intention now is that we're going to receive that award. So if I can ask members to get up, and we'll receive that award from Wing Commander Dennis.
With you for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And having received that award, just like to extend my thanks on behalf of the authority to all of the officers that have worked so hard to achieve that award. It was a real privilege to attend the ceremony that was held last week at HMS Warrior and be in the presence of lots of members of the armed forces, but also lots of organisations that are equally committed to supporting reservists and veterans. So on behalf of me, thank you to everybody that played your part in achieving that award. And we look forward to a very long relationship with you, Wing Commander Dennis. Thank you. So on to the rest of the Chairman's announcements. Are there any questions or comments on the Chairman's announcements people wish to raise? Take that as a no. Thank you. Next item is number 7, petitions.
None received, Chairman.
Thank you. Number 8 is questions. Any public questions received in accordance with Standing Order SO A7?
None received, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Item number 9, recommendations for committees. This is in relation to the Performance Management Q1 22-23 report. So the Executive Committee, which met last week, considered this report. Members will recall at the first authority meeting that I set out that I was keen that members got visibility to the key performance indicators that the service was tracking so that we could improve our scrutiny of the service. And I'm delighted to say that we've got the first of those reports today, which I'll hand over in a second to Anne-Marie Carter to present. I think it's important members understand this is a work in progress. This pack has been pulled together following work during the summer with the senior management team and lead members, and I think it's a really significant step forward, but it's important that members play their part in to help to shape what the KPIs are that you want to look at and make sure that we use it to properly scrutinise the service. So just want to say thank you to the officers for the work through the summer. It's a really fantastic piece of work, and on that note I'll hand over to Anne-Marie.
Thank you. So historically, the service has brought performance measures to the members across various reports, but at different frequencies. Working with staff and members, we've combined and built a range of measures covering the whole service in one report that will be provided on a more regular basis. These measures will show how we are delivering against our objectives and enablers found in our corporate plan, and the link between the measures and our objectives and enablers can be seen in the next report, the 2020 to 2025 Corporate Plan Year 3 update. On page 38, we have highlighted 3 measures that show both good performance, a reduction in accidental dwelling fires versus previous years, and areas that we need to focus on, increasing the number of fire and wellness visits we complete whilst maintaining our high percentage of visits to vulnerable people. We will continue to develop and refine these measures, with updates being provided quarterly to members. And myself and the team are happy to take any questions on the range of measures and our performance. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from members? Okay. We had a good discussion at Executive Committee. I know there were some comments made on that, and particularly around the visits in particular. So can I just remind members, if having further reflected on the report, there are any measures that you want to see clarification on or to add or to remove, if you can make sure you feed those through to Anne-Marie, that'd be most welcome. But thank you again for the work. I think we're required to note the report. We're happy to do so. Thank you. So item number 10 is summer pressures. So as members will know, this summer the service faced significant numbers of pressures due to the wildfires and field fires that we experienced. And I asked officers to prepare for us the lessons learned from those summer pressures. You should have received a paper outlining where the service is at in reviewing the summer and what it means for the service. And I'll hand over now to Callum Bell, who's going to take us through it.
Thank you very much, Chairman, members of the Fire Authority. On the 19th of July this year, Buckinghamshire and Milton Keynes Fire Authority faced the busiest and most challenging periods of operational demand we have ever faced. Following an extreme period of hot, dry weather, temperatures on that day reached a record high of 40.3 degrees Celsius. Major incidents were declared in 15 fire and rescue services across the country, 2 of which were in Buckinghamshire and Milton Keynes, along with neighbouring services in Bedfordshire, London and Hertfordshire, all as a result of the devastating outbreak of fires. During the same period in July, we were also dealing with 3 other significant fires and 2 serious road traffic collisions. Just 3 weeks later in August, we found ourselves facing similar challenges. On the morning of Monday the 8th, Thames Valley Fire Control Service had received 65 calls, the majority of which were in relation to fires in the open. And by 2 p.m. that afternoon, they were receiving an average of 1 call per minute. The report I'm bringing you today is an interim one. As is customary following the response to any notable incident or event, we carry out a range of debriefing processes. All are intended to highlight good practice and areas we can improve upon to continue to deliver the best possible service we can. These include learning reviews of command, which is focused at the command teams at the various incidents, incident debriefs, looking at and involving all activities by all personnel supporting each individual incident, and, if warranted, a more broader organisational survey. We are midway through the debriefing processes from those events during that period, and the staff survey is due to go out this week. The local Resilience Forum are now making plans to conduct a debrief involving all agencies that got involved across the whole of the Thames Valley, and we will be part of that. Whilst we wouldn't normally start to introduce any learning until after we have concluded all the debriefing processes, on this occasion we have taken the liberty to introduce some early initial changes. Some examples of these are, we have introduced cool boxes to be carried on the appliances. Whilst there is never a shortage of drinking water on the appliances, when we are facing extreme temperatures, the challenge we have is about keeping that water cool to assist with rehydrating all our staff. We've also introduced electrolyte tablets into those vehicles for the staff to use with the water to then again rebalance any loss of fluids during extended periods of exertion. We've also accelerated the rollout of personal issue face masks, which provide a higher level of respiratory protection at the likes of grass and heath fires, but not used exclusively there. Other areas that we've started to identify at these very early stages of the debriefing processes, which we will be following up in more detail in due course, are preparedness and resilience, response, equipment, including the fleet and the type of vehicles we utilise for events such as these and the equipment it carries, procedures around mobilising and responding to the types of these incidents that we faced, welfare and welfare support, specialist support from the likes of, now across the country, we've got national resilience arrangements, we have specialist advisors for a variety of incident types. These are known as tactical advisors. Within the Thames Valley, we've got an agreement for a number of tactical advisors covering a variety of different incident types. For the incident in the south of Buckinghamshire at that time, we utilised a wildfire TACAD. So we're reviewing our current provision of the likes of those, not just locally, regionally, but also nationally. We're looking at communications, not just at the incident, but across other departmental functions when we escalate incidents and introduce the likes of an operational support room, health and safety and prevention. As I've mentioned, all of these are not necessarily just been limited to those specific areas I've identified. More will follow when we conclude the debriefing process. Many of them we're dealing with locally, regionally and nationally. And we are forming part of the discussions that are going on around the likes of the fleet, equipment and tactical advisors. Once we've concluded all our internal and partner debriefing processes, I will bring a fuller and more comprehensive report back to the authority for your information. As I've said earlier, these were some of the most challenging and demanding periods the service has ever faced. And having attended both of the major incidents, the one in Milton Keynes and the one in South Bucks, and the operational support room towards the end of the day, I would like to close by recognising the dedication, professionalism and commitment of all our staff who attended and supporting our response to these incidents. That concludes my update, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Foss. And I know that we would join you in extending our thanks to all colleagues across the fire service for their outstanding work through the summer. It was a challenging time, and that report outlines just how challenging and how well the service responded. So thank you. Any questions or comments from members? Councillor Darlington.
So absolutely a huge thank you to the whole team and the support team, which I know, who don't attend the fires, but are absolutely crucial in that. I just had a question, I think it's really great what you're doing in the review, but actually, as we've spoken about previously, climate change is leading to extreme weather events, both drought and flood and everything in between. And I just wanted to ensure that what kind of work are we doing to broaden the review out, particularly with other councils, with other authorities, so that we can consider, so we're not caught short come winter when it might be the exact opposite experience?
We are actively engaged in, as I mentioned, partner agencies, other fire and rescue services, and just last week we were involved in an early discussion with other key partners across both emergency response, local authority, across the whole of the Thames Valley, to look at how we start to plan and prepare for winter pressures. That will continue, but that will run in tandem with the work that we're looking at around these particular challenges we faced during that extreme heat.
Thank you. Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to associate myself as well with the comments that you made and congratulate the teams for an outstanding performance during the very challenging summer months. A couple of things, just to assure the committee that obviously with my responsibilities around the climate emergencies, I have been having discussions with Mark Hemming and others around how we can incorporate the findings from the work that Callum and the team have been doing into our recommendations as we move through and progress through the year. A couple of things do occur. Obviously, whilst this is an exception for us, this is the norm in parts of southern Europe. So perhaps we can be looking at how the service in Spain, in southern France, Italy, etc., reacts on an annual basis to these sorts of eventualities. just so we can do some learning from experience made over many, many years over there. And secondly, of course, how out of the findings of the work that is being done at the moment, we can look to advise third parties, dare I suggest farmers, in the way they plant their crops, maybe putting in place breaks between fields of corn, etc., just so that there can be some more thought given towards prevention in advance of what is going to become increasingly the norm. Thank you, Callum.
No, thank you. In response to the first question around learns from wider and other organisations, the Chief Officer has made contact earlier on with other fire and rescue services that are starting to specialise in this work, and we are looking to bring them into the service to see what we can learn from them, and not just in terms of equipment, but also in terms of deployment and response models around that. On the list of bullet points, the last one I mentioned, not because for any reason, just was around prevention. And we have, during that particular period, we did engage with a number of farmers and landowners that had been highlighted through other routes of some concerns around how they were storing their crop. And that's something we'll continue to do, continue to explore and continue to engage with.
Thank you. Councillor Christensen.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll echo the comments already made about the quality of the response. I guess it's just 2 points. One is, would it be possible in the final report to get some analysis on what caused these major incidents? So clearly the drought was the key factor, but what actually triggered the incident? And I accept the fact the number of events that happened within Buckinghamshire is relatively low to analyse, so perhaps looking at nationally and then really coming back into how do we feed those causes back into our prevention programme?
Yes, of course, we will do.
Councillor Stutchbury.
Yeah, I concur with all the comments made about the report, and thank you for it. One of the things we have to be aware of, we still are in a drought. If you go out into the fields are still dry. We've got leaf litter now, which is an additional, like kindling, coming out of trees. Those parts of North Buckinghamshire, which I know, and I know parts of Milton Keynes, where we've got large sections of, through design, park areas adjacent to woodlands, adjacent to properties, there is a huge additional concern there in the sense that the leaves drop down on the ground. They are like kindling, and we need to be monitoring that, because with the dry autumn, people's habits about what they do in the parks will extend into the autumn and the early winter. So I don't think the eclipse was in the summer, but I don't think the problem's really gone away. And I know that you'll be aware of this stuff. Can we please just monitor that? Because some audit of parkland, open space and agricultural land needs to be taking place. Noting that you came to my own community and had a large, extensive film fire on the outskirts of Buckingham. Thank you for coming and thank you for putting it out.
Yeah, thank you. And just to assure you that when our crews and they're out doing routine activities, if they do identify that there is, I would say, abnormal fire loading of any type out in their communities, they will report it to the relevant authorities.
Thank you. Any further comments? Okay, on which basis? We're being asked to agree two recommendations. Firstly, that the pressure experienced by Buckinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service during the prolonged hot weather through this summer, as outlined in this report, be noted. And secondly, that the authority receive a further report once all the debriefing and review processes have been concluded. We're happy to agree those recommendations. Thank you. Moves us on to item number 11, the 2020 to 2025 Corporate Plan Year 3 update. Members will recall that we had a first draft of this at the annual meeting of the Fire Authority on the 15th of June. And following that review, there were a number of amendments and additions to the plan for consideration that we asked of officers, and that's why it's back with us here today. I'm going to hand over in a second to the Corporate Planning Manager, Stuart Gowanlock, but I just wanted to ask members, we clearly had an extensive discussion at this at the annual meeting, so if I could ask that any comments are restricted to the additions only, that would mean that we can progress through the business efficiently. Thank you. Stuart.
Thank you, Chairman. As you'll have seen from the resolution in the minutes of the June Fire Authority meeting, we were asked to integrate some elements from the other aspects of our overall planning framework into the corporate plan, in particular those relating to the Public Safety Plan, Environment and Climate Change Action Plan, and also the HMICFRS Action Plan. We have endeavoured to address these requirements in a straightforward way as follows. At page 7 of the plan, which is page 86 of your packs, you will see that we have added a diagram which shows how all the various plans fit together and relate to one another. If you are viewing the document electronically, you will also find that you can access all of the other plans directly from that page via hyperlinks. At section 8, which contains the schedule of key projects and tasks, we've added actions relating to the 2 HMIC FRS causes of concern arising from the 2021 inspection and also the Climate Change Action Plan, again with hyperlinks to the relevant source plans. You can see those shaded in grey at pages 10 and 13 of the plan. Finally, we have also taken the opportunity to update the performance measures designed to gauge progress towards the achievement of the authority's strategic objectives and the effectiveness of its strategic enablers to align with the new performance monitoring framework and associated indicators that you saw earlier at agenda item 9A. These are shown at pages 8 to 9 of the plan. That's pages 87 to 88 of your papers. As you will have seen, we have cross-mapped them from the quadrant structure used in the earlier paper back to the original strategic objectives and enablers, with which they seem to fit well, so that we can look at things both ways interchangeably. So those are the main changes that we've made to the plan since you last saw it in June. There are a few other amendments to the text which are shaded in grey where they appear in the document, such as at page 4 of the plan, that's 83 of your packs, which addresses the changing economic and financial outlook for the service since the medium-term financial plan and budget were agreed back in February. If I may, I will finish there and hand back to the Chairman to receive any questions or comments that members may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from members? Councillor Darlington.
Just to say, I'm glad to see that the Environment and Climate Action Plan is in there, and I hope that the work that Councillor Hopkins is doing will be included in the next generation of this corporate plan.
He's nodding, so I think we can take that as a yes. Do you think you want to add to that? Yes, indeed. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, on which basis can I ask the meeting to agree the recommendations, which are on page 75. Forgive me, I'll get myself back to it. Which is that we approve, that's straightforward, doesn't even need to go back to it really, that we approve the 2025 corporate plan update. Members happy to approve the corporate plan? Agreed. Thank you. And thank you, Stuart, for the further work on it. Much appreciated. So we move on to item number 12, which is the prevention strategy update. So the existing prevention strategy was still within its review period, but the developments in July 2022 of the introduction of the Prevention Fire Standard and the National Fire Chief Council's prevention strategy in July 2022 and our own internal evaluation and that of HMI CFRS Tranche 2 report means that we've needed to review and update the report. So I'm going to hand over in a second to Joanne Cook, who's our Community Safety and Safeguarding Manager, and Group Commander Paul Scaines to take us through the update to the report. So who am I handing over to first? Is it you, Joanne? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The prevention strategy, as the Chair has mentioned, was still within period. However, a number of things came into effect over 2021 which have prompted the update of that strategy and the revised one that's been presented to you. The strategy was developed in full cognizance of the third element of the Prevention Fire Standard, which specifically states that we need to develop a prevention strategy and plan with the flexibility to proactively respond and adapt to the changing needs of our community, and for this to be supported by a named lead for prevention. Now, there are key changes within this document, and that includes the division of the prevention activity focus into 4 areas. That's detailed in section 6, which in your packs commences at page 108. The areas are safer homes, safer neighbourhoods, safer roads and safer environments. Whilst that doesn't specifically reference any activity related to children or young people within those 4 themes, that is because work that we do with children and young people is integral to all of those 4 themes, so it will be covered within. In section 8, we have clarity given on the evaluation of our activity and performance, and that is detailed from page 121 in your packs. And then in section 9, we recognise that there are a number of emerging risks which impact upon prevention, and we cannot always forecast those. At the time this document was drafted, some of those emerging risks have been detailed from page 122. However, we know that there will be more risks emerging over the next 3 years, and that references back to what I commenced with, which is having a prevention strategy and plan that is flexible to adapt to changes that occur within its period. All of this now aligns with the public safety plan and is brought together with the aim that everything through national guidance, requirements from HMI, our internal evaluation and the Prevention Fire Standard are covered within this document. So it's presented to you for approval today. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything? Oh, sorry. Is there anything Group Commander Scanes you'd like to add?
No, nothing to add. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from members? Councillor Stutchbury.
Yeah, I mean, since this report was drafted, with the economic situation in the country's changed dramatically. One thing I haven't noticed in the report is my fear is that people will choose different ways to warm their houses, and if you've got a chimney, you may not have had it swept for the best part of 25 years because you've had gas central heating, and people might go that we need to be having a campaign about minding people if they do start using their chimneys again that they need sweeping. Otherwise we'll have a lot of chimney fires which you'll have to go and put out because they've not used them for a while. Page 123, yeah.
Thank you. And although that flexibility we've said is within there, ultimately the National Fire Chiefs Council have produced a climate change support pack which recognises some of the cost of living implications that are there, and that was only released to us last week, so it is something that we will be rolling out with some messages that are timely over the winter. We also have links with both Buckinghamshire and Milton Keynes Council who have set mechanisms up to support some of the difficulties that they're foreseeing with either cooking or heating over the winter period.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Darlington.
Sorry, mine was a similar point, but around space heaters, because we know there's a huge increase in those to avoid turning on your boiler. And just when you have that material to raise awareness, please do send it to all of us, and we can hopefully advertise that through our networks as well, because it is anything we can prevent from space heaters causing fires would be valuable.
Of course, we'll circulate that. Thank you.
Councillor Marland.
It's just a point around the emerging risks, as highlighted in the HMI FRS report, around the risk of the finance on the ability to put money into prevention work, because obviously last year we were able to take the £5 council tax increase, and part of that was to employ new firefighters, and part of those firefighters were to go into prevention work. Obviously, as the more inflation increases and the more pressure there is on the finance, the ability to have officers working in prevention as opposed to on the front line, more operationally on the front line. I just wonder if that should be highlighted in an emerging risk, as that will affect, has affected prevention work and may risk it in the future as well.
Yeah, I think that's a well-made point, actually, Councillor Marland. So can we add that as to the emerging risk and track that? I think that's a well-made point. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from members? No? On which basis are we happy to approve the prevention strategy? Thank you. That moves us on to item number 13, which is the Safety Centre funding, which relates to a funding agreement, a decision that was taken, relates to a decision that was made at Business Transformation Board in February on the continuation of funding for the Safety Board, and the report outlines a decision we're now asked to take regarding funding for a 3-year term commencing on the 1st of October, and I know that you'll outline how that timing all comes together for us as you take us through the report. So handing over to Joanne again, I think.
Thank you, Chair. The Safety Centre is a kinesthetic, scenario-based learning resource that is based in Milton Keynes. The service was a key member in establishing that over 25 years ago. Since then, the service has utilised the Safety Centre to deliver education to young people through a series of funding agreements. This paper recommends the agreement of a 3-year funding agreement for £25,000 per annum, which would facilitate delivery of education to a minimum of 4,000 children and young people in accordance with the heads of terms defined. It should be noted that the paper was deferred from the routine review point of Q4, February, to enable a full year of trading to be reviewed following the appointment of a new CEO, and also a period where the centre was forced to close to accepting young children because of the demands of COVID. Whilst the centre was not able to accept or run school visits on its premises, it didn't stop work. It utilised that time to refresh the premises with new branding and replace an outdated scenario with a new street scenario. It also diversified to improve its outreach offer, and the first 2 of those were requirements in our last funding agreement. The new CEO has a very clear sense of how the staff at the centre can educate and improve the outcomes for children and young people, and she's continued to build on that outreach programme so that children and young people can be engaged with off-site as well as through the scenarios. This increases their ability to deliver to multiple groups of children at the same time. This has also included prominent activity announced since this paper was drafted, which has included becoming one of the 3 key agencies involved in the Knife Angel, which has been brought to Milton Keynes for December, and also a new partnership with the Heart of Bucks group to develop and deliver learning across Buckinghamshire for young people. Fundamentally, funding the Safety Centre enables the service to discharge some of its requirement to educate, and to do that through qualified staff and well-developed programmes. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before I open up to members' questions, comments, one of the things that I've suggested, because I'm certainly one of the members here that hasn't seen the Safety Centre, is that we're due to be in the great city of Milton Keynes for our meeting in February, and that we try and line a visit for members to the Safety Centre on that same date. So just if you can note that in your diaries, I think it'd be good for us to take a look around it, because certainly the photographs and the report suggest it's an excellent initiative. Any questions or comments from members? Councillor Christensen.
Just a brief comment to say I fully support the recommendations. Both of my daughters have attended the Safety Centre before it's refreshed, and came home with a much greater awareness of fire safety, which I think is a fantastic life skill for the kids to have. So the fact that there's been taken an opportunity to refresh it during the COVID period and the lockdown is even better news. So, yeah, thank you very much. Great news.
Thank you. Councillor Marland.
Just to, again, reiterate our support for the Safety Centre. Milton Keynes Council funds it to do a lot more than this. Obviously, they will top slice some of that money just for running costs, but just to put on record as well, the Safety Centre will be coming into quite a lot of Section 106 money from a development in Councillor Hopkins' ward. It was odd how that money ended up with them, but I think it's about £500,000 that they're going to end up with, so they shouldn't be short of money in the next few years, and that should be able to cover the reduction in the amount that the fire authority is going to pay them for transport, but they do have a significant amount of money coming in if any members are worried about the impact of that reduction in funding.
Thank you. Councillor Hopkins.
Can I just say I'm delighted to accept the full responsibility for £500,000 from my own ward coming into this much valued facility, and urge our public relations team to get onto this immediately.
I'm sure they noted that. Any other questions or comments from members? On which basis are we happy to agree the recommendation, which is a funding agreement with the Safety Centre of £25,000 a year for a 3-year term commencing on the 1st of October 2022 on the terms set out and the report be approved? Thank you. We will now move on to item number 14, People Strategy 2020-25 Year 2 Update, which I'm going to ask Councillor Hall to introduce first.
Thank you, Chairman. You have in front of you the 2-year update for the 5-year People Strategy. and I'm going to ask Station Commander Montague to talk you through it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. The People Strategy 2020 to 2025 is required to be reviewed and an annual update presented to the authority. On the 13th of October 2021, the authority approved the People Strategy Employee Engagement Roadshow as part of the People Strategy Year 1 review. These sessions were completed within the planned timescales and achieved the objective of raising the profile of the service's people strategy. The information was delivered through a range of methods, including face-to-face presentations, virtual sessions, and through information fact sheets, which were published on the service's intranet and promoted to harder-reach part-time employees. There are a range of work streams which support the 5 key areas which are identified in the strategy. These are being delivered with a focus on addressing areas for improvement and causes for concern in the People section of the Service's HMI CFRS inspection report, which was published in December 2021. The recommendation of this paper is that the contents of this update and progress made in key areas are noted.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
Sorry, Chair, I'm still going.
I do apologise.
Yeah. Achievements to note include, so in key area 1, equality, diversity and inclusion, there has been a renewed approach to community engagement following the impact of the global pandemic. The service has resumed a wide range of public-facing activities, delivering new methods of engagement and interaction within our communities. Key area 2, employee engagement. The service has worked to understand and address key points raised in the service's culture survey, which was completed in January 2022. The introduction of the feedback loop has allowed our employees to better understand the process of impacting and affecting organisational change. This was achieved by delivering service-wide listening workshops with our employees and providing timely updates on key themes identified and having plans for further progress. Key area 3, organisational development and resourcing. Delivery of the Leadership and Development Programme has provided measurable level of training and leadership training and knowledge across all of our services management structure, giving our leaders the knowledge and empowerment required to manage more effectively at all levels. Key area 4, training, learning and development. There has been a significant commitment to delivering a wide range of whole-time recruitment, transferee and on-call firefighting courses, supporting the service's strategic objective of increasing the operational establishment. This has been delivered alongside recruitment for support roles, helping the service to run more effectively. Key area 5, employee health and wellbeing. The service's mental wellbeing support network has been reviewed and updated, providing a robust structure supporting employees across the service. 37 mental health champions have been trained to provide a range of support to our employees. The paper also identifies objectives for year 3 of the strategy. These objectives will allow the service to measure and record progress made in each key area, identify new opportunities to develop our people strategy, and improve how we support and develop both existing and future employees. Thank you to your time, and Chair, I'll hand you back over. Thank you.
So firstly, in my defence, it was a highly impressive dramatic pause. And my line of sight to you is obscured, but I do apologise for interrupting you. Any questions or comments on the report? Councillor Darlington.
Just a really quick one. I just wanted to say a huge thank you to how much the teams have been doing outreach to various events like Pride and the Jubilee events and seeing the attendance there. But just a bit of a suggestion, have we considered using those as opportunity to do, I know this isn't necessarily a recruitment one, this is about but increasing our EDI through those events, because we actually don't give out anything saying, come work for us.
Yeah, so in terms of, so we planned to attend Pride. Unfortunately, we weren't able to attend. We also attended Eid in the Park in High Wycombe, which was really successful. I'd say the challenge, having sat on both working groups for the events, the challenge is identifying whether we want to engage in that event or to recruit. So we do a wide range of recruitment activities. and we will always make recruitment accessible. Part of the challenge, I would say, moving forward is making sure that we can point people who are interested in a career in the fire and rescue service in the right direction at any time. So rather than being perhaps reactive as to when we're only open for recruitment. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
And do you want to add something?
Yeah, so I was just going to kind of add, so we do have a range of events, so on-call awareness, have a go days, all of these kind of things. So we're working, Human Resources are working really closely with the comms team, just on all of our employee engagement. So for example, as Monty said, we went to Eid in the Park, and that was to do with engagement, but it wasn't that we weren't doing recruitment as well. We do have lots of different leaflets. You know, I know, for example, you're doing some kind of work tomorrow where we're taking out a kind of mannequin with called Lucy, who has got that we dress up so people can kind of dress up in the different uniforms. So it's engagement. It's trying to engage at the different levels. We've obviously got open days as well, Aylesbury and Broughton. So as part of the workforce planning that we're doing, the positive action, we're trying to look at all the events that we can do across the whole of the year. So the recruitment team are going to apprenticeship shows. We've gone to schools. There's lots of different things that we're doing, and we are doing it to try and increase the diversity of the workforce. So we're doing it at the levels for children and all the way up. So we are really trying to improve it, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to see that in the new cohorts that are coming in. Thank you.
Councillor Hall.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Just to add to that, I mean, when we talk with the team really are all over recruitment as well as the community engagement. So it's never very far away, and it's one of our top priorities, particularly with recruitment. So yeah, we are all over it.
Councillor Stutchbury.
Well, firstly, thank you for a very thorough report. One thing I would hope that we'll be keen on monitoring going forward, because we are in changing times, is the impact on our own staff, which would be the economic impacts on everybody else in the community, rising fuel costs, static wages, and how we manage that, and early signs to make sure we support staff members whichever way we can to make sure that they can contain and keep their heads above water. And also, latterly, is there any programme of works looking at staffing accommodations? Having visited Wycombe Fire Station recently at request, I think some of the facilities our staff are occupying and using probably could do with a uplift. The curtains there aren't exactly great, and I'm not one for decorating, but it doesn't look like the paintbrush has been around there for long, and it needs some investment in the areas our staff working, because if you're not in a comfortable area, that's demotivating for members of the staff, and it doesn't look like it's had any investment in that top floor where the staff are for a very, very long time.
Thank you, Councillor. In terms of staff and how we look after our staff, I think the employee health and wellbeing team work really hard, and certainly our senior management team signpost a lot of our employees towards the services that are available. Some of that can be counselling advice, and that includes financial advice for our employees. I'm not going to disagree with you. It may be a challenge for some of our employees, and part of that is hopefully as a fire service we continue to look after each other through good times and bad. In terms of your point about the services premises, I'll hand you over to somebody who can probably answer better than me on that.
So I think Councillor Walsh wants to comment on that, and then I'll hand over to the Chief Forester.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, Councillor Stutchbury, as lead member responsible for our property and assets, I am intending to visit every single one of our fire stations in the next 6 weeks. I will pay particular attention to the curtains at High Wycombe and report back and see if there's something that we can do to improve that for our dedicated team.
If it was only just the curtains, it'd be easy.
So I've just seen Mark come on as well, but do you want Mark to speak first? Or? Yeah. So Mark, do you want to respond as well? I'm afraid you're on mute.
So apologies, Chairman. We're unmuted on the computer, but not on the device itself. So can everyone hear us now? Fantastic. So in terms of High Wycombe, that is probably the station that needs the most investment. For historical reasons, it hasn't been invested in for a number of years, mainly because of discussions with the District Council about the long-term viability of that site and whether it needed to be moved or not. We've had a condition survey done of all our stations by an external company, and that has identified the need for about £500,000 worth of investment into High Wycombe, which is programmed over the next couple of years as part of the upcoming property strategy that will come to members in the remainder of this financial year. So I can reassure the councillors that Wycombe is due for a large amount of investment to rectify the problems that Councillor Stutchbury has identified.
Thank you. Does anybody, Chief Forester?
Thank you, Chairman. No, it was just to come in, Mark's covered that point, the bit around how we're supporting our staff, back to Councillor Stutchbury's first question, and we've engaged, excuse me, with both Buckinghamshire Council and Milton Keynes Council, looking at the programmes that they're putting in place with their staff as well. So we're kind of piggybacking along with that, just to ensure that we can provide the best support that we can for our staff during that period, and linking in with our HR teams as well. So just to give you that assurance that we're working closely with both local authorities on that.
Yeah, so just in terms of the support that we provide as a HR team, so there's occupational health, we've been writing articles on financial wellbeing, so I've attended some webinars on those as well to see what others are doing, if there's anything that we can bring back. We've obviously got the welfare officer, as Mick said, we've got the meetings in with other local partners as well to see what they're doing, to see if we can bring anything back. So it is something that we are really mindful of, and then obviously we refer on to our employee assistance programme over onto the firefighters charity as well. So there is a lot of a range of things that we're doing, also tied in with the mental health support officers. So we're continuously looking at actually what our employees need and what we can do to support them. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dower.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you. I have to apologize for my voice. I'm just looking at the centre where young people go to, and looking at the strands that have been identified in the books. Are we sort of working together to see how the individuals looking at the equality assessment, is there, an opportunity for young people and people from the different backgrounds identified to actually have the time and opportunity to visit the centre? And is the centre as well able to have data to reflect, if these groups are, how many of the groups are attending the centres? Because it would be an opportunity where we have the young people, like Councillor Christensen said about his daughters going there. It would be an opportunity to look into the future to encourage young people to think about the service and see how they can get involved. So for me, is how do we put those two groups together, the equality, the individuals and the centre, bringing them together for the future. Thank you.
So I think, and it may just be a team thing, I think you're referring to the safety centre item there, aren't you, Shirley? Yeah. So if I can ask Joanne to answer that. I recognise you're coming in on Teams, so the timing might be wrong.
In terms of the equality impact assessment and the children attending the centre, there have been a number of schemes put in place over recent years where the centre has provided and is providing over this half-term period additional sessions for those children who are living in the hotels under the ARAP scheme, so the African Resettlement Programme. That has been funded through the Community Foundation to attend. Now, whilst we could look at those, and I think part of what Councillor Doe was saying was going towards looking at recruitment in the future, ultimately it relates to status of the people in those groups as to whether they'd be able to be recruited in the future. But it is looking into that diverse group. The other side of that is that there are a number of programmes where the centre is targeting schools that have not engaged previously or are in hard-to-reach areas, and we look at the areas of deprivation for that and areas where you have high number of children who are taking in free school meals, etc. So we could look at running some figures and seeing how that could be used to inform things in the future. With having agreed the Safety Centre funding agreement moving forward, one of the things that had been requested but we'd put on hold was to have more evidence of the fire services involvement around the centre. So whilst they had some original plaques that have been there around 15 to 20 years, having that branding of the supporting emergency services updated, but also having some video pieces recorded that they could play would also tie into presenting the service to the young people who are attending. So now with the agreement in place, we can move forward on those elements.
Thank you. Returning us to the agenda item on the people strategy, any further comments or questions? So I just got one quick question, if I may, and then I will just wrap up with another observation. So just on Appendix 3, the apprenticeship levy usage. So clearly there's been a huge amount of very successful work on apprenticeship, and indeed, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say that last week at the Gold Award Covenant ceremony, the Deputy Chief Fire Officer and the Chief of Defence people were discussing the approach to apprenticeships, and they stole an idea off us for the armed forces, so we should take enormous credit for that. But one of the things that I was struck by was the access we've now got to the co-investment from government. I'm just interested in how much of that opportunity have we yet taken in terms of the government, our use of the levy, the government now allowing us to pay 5% and they pay the remaining 95%.
I'm going to be honest and say I wouldn't be able to answer that off of the top of my head, but it's something I can come back to you with.
Okay, that'd be great. Just drop me a note on that.
you.
I think that's a really encouraging sign, so we should definitely take advantage of that. Okay.
Sorry, so in terms of the actual, I mean, it is an area that the organisational development teams work on, but what I would say is that obviously we are utilising as much, you know, we're on cohort 7 now, we're about to go on to cohort 8, so we are utilising as much of the, as much as we can, and so there's 95% that the government are paying, and then there's 5% that we are. I haven't got the actual figures. I don't know whether Callum or Mick have got anything that they can say that's further than to that, but I know that we're utilising, we've got a lot more apprentices coming in, you know, literally March and October, so we are utilising everything to the maximum.
I can come back with a more detailed report on how we are progressing with our apprenticeship framework and the successes of that at a later date, if that helps.
Just strikes me it's free money that we should be going after, so let's make sure we do. Okay, we're being asked, sorry, and one final observation, just again to thank you for the excellent work during the summer. Council Hall's reference to the work on recruitment. I think we had a workforce planning update at Executive Committee on Friday, and really good to see that we're currently on track to both have on-station and our establishment figures on track for the end of March, so really good progress, so thank you. We're being asked to note the content and progress in the report. We're happy to do so. Thank you. We're now moving on to item number 15, which is exclusion of the press and public. So this is for us to consider excluding the public and press representatives from the meeting by virtue of paragraph 1 of part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, as the minutes contain information relating to any individual, and paragraph 3 of part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, as the minutes contain information relating to the financial or business affairs of a person, including the authority. And on these grounds, it is considered the need to keep information exempt outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. Meeting happy to approve that recommendation. Thank you.